we are on. Hello, hello. Happy Friday, everyone. This is Janice from the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce, along with Kat and Neva, one of our board members. And possibly we will be joined by a couple more of our board members later on during the broadcast after we speak to our guest speaker, a repeat guest speaker who had managed to give us a lot of good information the first time PPP came out. So now I think it's just proper that we bring him back because a lot of things have changed and there's a lot of updates. So those are the things that we're going to talk about today. This is going to be really pertinent and important to the people of any race and any business and those who have had been given or awarded the PPP loan. So this is a chance for you to ask your questions and see what you need to do to, for your compliance, and what you need to do to keep it coming, or what you need to do pay back, right? So further ado, right. It is a loan after all, right? So we don't go away with it. So without further ado, let me give the floor to our guest speaker, John Lau. He is a CPA and CFP based of Northern California, but has served a lot of people like us, business people, and has been in this industry for so long. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Lau.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction, Janice, and nice seeing everybody again virtually. And so Janice is 100% right. There's been a lot of changes. The last time I was invited up here, we talked about, how to apply for PPP loan, how to qualify for PPP loan. So a month or so later now, the focus has changed to how to maximize the forgiveness of PPP loan. And I actually did a webcast maybe about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago on that topic, already. But since then, there's been some new changes. So it is really an ongoing change situation. And that is also one of the reasons why the Banking Trade Association is trying to encourage the government to automatically forgive loans that are less than $150,000. And their rationale, and by the way, it is not the case yet, but I just want you to know that that is something that is being negotiated. And the reason is because there's just too many changes. So that it is placing a burden on the people that the PPP loan is supposed to help. But instead of doing that, this ever-changing environment, it is almost like the airplane is already up in the air, but they are still trying to figure out how to design it. So, it creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of anxiety. And by the way, that is the reason why, based on my latest information, there is still money left available for PPP loan. So on June 5th, the PPP loan was updated with what is called the PPP Flexibility Act. And it was signed into law by President Trump. And it was, passed through both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And there are a couple of really important changes. They are primarily to make it easier for more Americans to qualify for forgiveness. So let me explain some of the major changes. So number one is that used to be the cover period used to be 8 weeks. So what that means is, when you receive the money starting from the loan disbursement date, and that is the date when the loan hits your bank account, you start counting that forward 8 weeks. And excuse me. 8 times 7, that is 56 days. So 8 calendar weeks, not 8 work weeks, and you got to spend the money. And there are guidelines on how much you can spend or how much you need to spend on payroll costs, how much you need to spend on covered overhead, and there are permissible uses as opposed to not permissible uses. And if you spend your money on not permissible uses, then you can be personally liable and all of that good stuff. With the Flexibility Act, that 8 weeks has now been extended to 24 weeks. So now you have more time to spend the money on the permissible uses, and therefore you have more time to qualify for forgiveness. That's number one. Number two is instead of 75 days, now they give, instead of 75%, I'm sorry, now the requirement is 60%. What I mean by that is the old law says in order for you to have forgiveness, 75% of the forgiveness money has to be spent on payroll costs. And after all, that's what it is. It is a payroll protection program. So you're going to spend the majority of the loan proceeds on payroll costs, and that's 75%. Under the Flexibility Act, it has been reduced from 75% to 60%. So if you spend 60%, you still qualify. Now, then the latest change is this, because when it first came out, the interpretation is, well, the 60% is now a cliff requirement. What that means is if you don't spend at least 60% on payroll costs, you don't get any forgiveness, period. That was the original interpretation as of just a couple of days ago. And that's what I mean. It just keeps changing. As of a couple of days ago, the SBA came out with its own interpretation that says, even if you spend less than 60% on payroll costs, you're still qualified for partial forgiveness. So that is a good thing. And the third thing is this. Under the old, the original PPP legislation, is whatever is not forgiven, you have to pay it off within 24 months. Within 24 months of the disbursement date, with a 6-month deferral. So let me explain what that means. Let's say, for example, you get it today. You have to spend the money in 8 weeks, as I said earlier, and then you apply for forgiveness. The amount that is not forgiven, you have to pay it back, and you have 24 months from today, and today being the disbursement date, to pay it all off. And but you don't have to start the payment until 6 months later. Boy, with all of these rules and regulations, people's heads are just blowing up. How do you keep track of all of that? That is why I really recommend that you work with your accountant, you work with your CPA. Now, don't be calling me, by the way, because we don't do that kind of work. We are advisors, and we can tell you what the rules are, and we can tell you what to do and how to do it, but we don't do it. Okay. So if you want to have your CPA call us, we'll be more than happy to have a conversation, but we're not going to be able to actually do the work. And so that is it. So used to be, you're going to pay it off in 24 months, or you had 2 years. So now under the Flexibility Act, they have extended it, and now you have 5 years to pay it off. And if you and your banker can agree on it, you can actually extend that all the way to 10 years. So, I think they have appropriately named this as the Flexibility Act because it is flexible and it is good for borrowers. And if we can actually, if the banking association can convince.
Today's video conference is brought to you in partnership by Clean Power Alliance and the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce, South Bay, Los Angeles area.
What? Back up for a couple of seconds, John, because our ad accidentally came on. So
okay,
sorry about that.
Yeah, so I guess what I was saying is that if the trade association, the banking association, is successful, convincing the politicians to actually automatically forgive all the loans that are below $150,000, then what Janice said earlier is 100% right. Now it becomes a grant and it's not a loan anymore. But as of right now, it is still a loan. And what is important to remember, by the way, is that, the forgiveness is not automatic. Since our last broadcast, I have talked to a lot of people up here in Northern California. Now, they are not as smart as you guys down in Southern California. So what they've been telling me is, I don't have to worry about the money. It is free money and automatically it is going to be forgiven. How do I book it on my P&L? Is it an income item? Is it not an income item? And I say, now, wait a minute. You're going to just take a moment and take a breath. It is not automatic. And it is important for you to know that because if you want forgiveness, you have to apply for it. And the SBA has already released the application form. So you can go on the SBA.gov, download the application form. And, it is relatively simple, but you just got to know all the rules and work with your CPAs. But if you do have any questions for clarification purposes, please feel free to give me a call and I'll be happy to work it out for you. That's all I have.
Wow. And all of that from the top of your head with no and nothing. I mean, come I am just amazed at how you memorize all this, John.
Well, that is what I do for a living. I mean, I'm an advisor, and my clients up here they rely on my office to provide this kind of information. So it is not like I got to study up for it to be on this interview. I mean, we know, and that is our job. And again, Janice, I really appreciate the invitation and the exposure. And Kat, I enjoy meeting you. And so, I hope one day we can meet in person. But, just a little bit of a sideline. I'm getting really, really used to meeting online. I remember the very first time that Janice tried to set it up, and it was a disaster on my end. Remember that, Janice?
Yes.
It was a disaster, okay? And ever since then, I mean, we set up GoToMeeting and everything, and we are meeting with our clients every day. I mean, today, I already have 5 meetings with clients online, and we are getting a hang of it. I mean, I love it. I love it. I think the world is changing. No question about it.
And no commute too, right?
No commute. Well, believe it or not, Janice, yesterday I went into my office because I got to pick up a couple of things. And my office is on the other side of the bay. I live about an hour away, and my office is in San Mateo. And anyway, believe it or not, yesterday there was traffic backup. I mean, that is unheard of. There was traffic backup, but I mean, it was still a lot better than usual. But I mean, like, and it is a nice thing to see because, that means things are beginning to go back to normal. But we still got to be very careful because, the news the last couple of days is that, the virus, maybe there is going to be a resurgence. And so, don't be going out there and hanging out with your friends or anything. Not until things die down a little bit. That is my recommendation.
Thank you for another recommendation.
Yeah.
From now, Dr. John Lau. Anyway, I want to bring up another one of our board members. She's actually our board treasurer right now. Meet Dr. Maricel Ananing. She's one of the dentists here in Carson. We all love her. We all are her clients. She's
Hi,
also,
hi, Marcel. How are you?
she's
Good
also
evening, Mr. Kat. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you too.
yes, and the reason why she is so appropriate for this call is she's also one of the PPP recipients, and so
Good.
I'm pretty sure that if if any one of us, it would be her that would have more pertinent questions regarding the new updates and what she needs to do in order to apply for that forgiveness, and two, what type of recording or what type of documentation does she normally have to submit, for the PPP.
Right.
Exactly. 'Cause my concern is that, and now that I know that they extended it to 24 weeks, my PPP got funded on May 4. So what I did was I had sent a letter to my team members asking them to come back. So even though there was no work to do because we're not allowed to see any patients, so my clock was ticking already. So now technically my PPP will end by the end of June and the money is running out. So my question would be what should I do as far as getting the forgiveness for that?
Well, so the loan disbursement date is May the
May 4.
4th.
Yes.
So what I recommend is, first of all, you do a spreadsheet, and you have 8 columns. Each column is for 1 week, okay? And then you put down on it the payroll cost and covered overhead.
Okay.
So the payroll cost should be number 1 priority. Because like I said, I mean, the whole idea is it is payroll protection. So, they don't necessarily want to give you the money and have you go on a vacation, or give you the money and buy new business equipment, or
Right.
Anything like that, right? So start with that first, because if your objective is to maximize forgiveness and hopefully 100% forgiveness, then spend as much money as you can on payroll. Are you a corporation, Dr. Maricel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you file 941, and 941 is the quarterly payroll tax return.
Correct.
Do you do it yourself, or do you hire a company like an ADP, or who does that?
Yes. I started with ADP. Now I am with QuickBooks. So they're doing my payroll for me.
Okay. So whether it is ADP, whether it is QuickBooks, I mean, we use ADP, by the way. Okay. So, we've been communicating with ADP and how to do it and this and that. I mean, and I'm sure QuickBooks is the same. They already have all the templates, everything, all the worksheet ready to go. And in fact, if you call them, and I would suggest that you do, because I don't have your numbers, and we do the same thing. We call over to ADP and we say, well, these are the employees that we have. And if we project it out, and what is the payroll cost, and blah, 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 and they can do a projection for you, and they can tell you already, are you going to be able to get 100% maximization or not? But from a supporting documentation standpoint, the way it stands right now it is subject to change almost on a day-to-day basis, but the way it is right now is that you're going to provide supporting document, and the Form 941 is a supporting document, right? That shows the banker how much money are you actually reporting to the IRS for payroll purposes, and that is to support the amount that you are claiming. And so that's how it is.
Okay. My supplement question: does the payroll cost, the payroll taxes included on that forgiveness, or that's a separate thing?
Payroll tax is included, And not only that, also, in addition to payroll costs, that is the fringe benefits, right? So let's say, for example, in your practice, if you have, 401k or profit sharing plan that you contribute for your employees, that is part of the payroll cost, and that is unlimited. Now, the payroll cost, by the way, is limited to no more than $100,000 per employee per year. You know that, right? Okay.
Yes.
Benefits unlimited. Okay, just so that you know, and and so that that's how it is. Let me think. Yeah, and also bonuses. I mean, that is another planning idea. If you say, well, I work it out, I mean, first 8 weeks, but now you can choose. You can either do 8 weeks or you can do 24 weeks. And if 24 weeks is going to give you more payroll costs, I mean, you're going to be better off, right?
Yeah.
But let's say, it is still not enough, then you can pay yourself a bonus, right? And so that is payroll costs. And so, all of those are ways that you can maximize your forgiveness amount.
John,
Okay.
how about if, say, these businesses hire independent contractors? Is that part of the expenses allowed in the PPP?
Yeah. So that is a very good question, Janice. I know there's a lot of confusion on that because, at first, no, then later on, someone think yes, and the official answer is no. So in other words, what you pay to independent contractors are not payroll. And the logic behind that is, if I'm your independent contractor, that means I have my own business, and that means I can get my own PPP. So why does the government need to pay you to pay me? You know what I mean? So that's the reason why, and it makes sense to me, and that is why I tend to believe that the answer is no, and that is the official answer.
How is that different from EIDL?
Well, so EIDL is Economic Injury and Disaster Loan. Okay, that is an SBA loan. And that is part of the SBA 7A program. And it is, it has always been there, except for this time around the pandemic, the whole United States becomes one big disaster area, right? And therefore, everybody can supposedly qualify for EIDL. And but EIDL is not forgivable. You are always going to have to pay it back. And I believe the interest rate on that is 3.75%. But then, you can take a long time to pay it back, but it is an SBA loan. If you apply EIDL, you're going to get it directly through the SBA. But with PPP, you get it through the bank, although the PPP loan is 100% guaranteed by the SBA. But still, one is a direct relationship with the bank, and the other one is a direct relationship with the SBA.
That's a great answer. Now I'm clear. I'm clarified. So with the EIDL, you don't need to be doing this documentation as the PPP, like you have suggested with Dr. Alunin, correct?
Right. I mean, the documentation is really to document and to substantiate your claim and your application for forgiveness, right? EIDL, on the other hand, I mean, it is a regular loan, and you're going to pay it back anyway. And so, once the payment schedule is established, then all that you have to do is to really service the debt, just like the way you service any debt. And so, so that is how EIDL works.
And a business owner can use that business for, anything that it seems deemed necessary for the business to survive,
right.
Not just.
And you can do that for anything inside a business. But here is the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, Janice, because if you are getting PPP and you are getting EIDL, the rule is that you cannot use the same money, or you cannot use the money for the same purpose. Okay.
No double dipping.
Right. And so, as far as, well, how is anyone going to know? I don't know how they're going to find out, but there is a way to know that. I mean, the government, you can say a lot of things, but, they are not as dumb as they look, as they say.
That's true. That's true. Uncle Sam is going to come and get you no matter where you hide, right? And
Right.
Mr. Lau,
Yes.
I do have another question for a friend because I called her. I said, "Do you have any question for our CPA? Because we're going to be in broadcasting." So her question would be, so she also got her PPP the same day, the same time as I did, and then she started recalling her employees, but they didn't want to come back to work yet. They only wanted to come in part-time because they wanted to maximize their unemployment. So how does that work as far as the forgiveness of the PPP?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that question. And I am going to have to refer you back to the SBA website because there are provisions for that. I'm not as up to it as I can, like Janice said, speak off of the top of my head. On that topic, I cannot. But I know it is being addressed. And I know that, for example, there are requirements, right? There is something called a full-time equivalent. Mm-hmm. So, the idea is when you apply for maximization, there are a couple of what they call haircuts. And one is the number of employees that remain employed. Mm-hmm. And the other one is the amount that you pay your employees. And if you fail on one of those, then the amount that you can be forgiven is going to be further reduced because of the haircuts, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so in that parameter, one of the question is exactly what you are asking. Hey, what if they don't want to come back? Well, yes. There are provisions. And my recollection is that if you make a best effort attempt, and if you can substantiate that, yes, you have offered and they have refused, mm-hmm. then it doesn't count. Then you still qualify. That is my recollection. But please go to SBA website, and I know there is a section that addresses that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
So as for any businesses or any organizations, it needs to be recorded, because that way, when you look back later on and try to, like he said, substantiate that you have done everything in your power to let the employee come back, to help them come back to work, and they decline, it needs to be recorded. I would suggest to have that on paper, for several different ways of communicating to the employee that, hey, we are offering you your job back, and these are the provisions. If you decline, you're going to have to maybe sign a waiver or a declination letter, so that we have that on your documentation.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. So when you apply for the PPP loan, you put all of that together, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Janice, I totally agree with you that it should be in writing. And because anybody can say anything, right? Mm-hmm. But, so you have it in writing, maybe email, and you attach that to the application and you send it in. And that is the documentation and substantiation right there. And so, but I mean, depending on the loan amount that you got, Maricel, I mean, like I said, if it is less than $150,000 and if they are going to automatically forgive that, then hey, everybody is gonna be happy, but right now we don't know whether if that is actually the case or not. And so, get ready. And by the way, timing, I wouldn't worry too much about applying for forgiveness yet. And the reason is because the rules are still changing every day. Okay. And so, especially now, you don't have to, they have this deferral. So it is not like you're going to pay them back right away. And so I would wait and see what other development there is before you apply. But having said that, it would be best practice to start putting the numbers together and see what it looks like. And then, when the time comes, just make the application.
Yes, and that would be we will be prepared for anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just make sure that you meet that 60% requirement. But I mean, it seems to me, why not? I mean, when you apply for the loan, that is based on your payroll anyway,
That's
right? So why
Yes.
wouldn't you be able to meet that 60% unless you lay off a whole bunch of people? But I mean, it doesn't sound like that is the case. So you should be okay.
Okay.
So question on that to follow up is, if you didn't need it, the employees didn't want to come back to work, can you return a portion of that PPP? I'm pretty sure nobody would want to return it, but can you return it so you don't get penalized for it, just in case it's not forgiven?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it is not forgiven, then you just return the money, and
We can always hire somebody also, I think.
what's
You
that?
can hire people,
We
right?
can always hire somebody to replace that person that did not wanted to come
Well,
back.
yeah, and I think that is also addressed in the SBA, clarification. This is the replacement. So absolutely, because that's what I was saying earlier, is that this is almost like the airplane is already up in the air flying, but they're still trying to figure out the design. Okay,
Yeah.
and so they are making changes every single day, and what about, for example, well. I'm going to have to let someone go because that person is just not doing the job. With or without pandemic, I was going to let that person go anyway. So if that's the case, what? Am I going to be penalized and you're not going to forgive me? And therefore, I have to hold on to this bad employee? Well, the PPP loan doesn't address that. So what do? I mean, we don't have all the answers, but I mean, and more clarity is coming on a daily basis. And that's what I mean is, don't be in a hurry to fill out the paperwork, send it in forgiveness yet, because, you don't have to.
So on another follow-up question would be, it's adjusted to 60% now on allowable or qualifying for the PPP. What are the other expense that is included or allowable use for the PPP plan?
So there are two categories, Janice. The main category is payroll, right? The second category is what they call covered overhead. So covered overhead includes interest on business mortgages. Interest on business mortgage is not restricted to the mortgage that you normally think about. You say, that means real estate. No, it can be interest on personal property. So, for example, if you are leasing a copying machine, and so that qualifies. Okay, so that falls in the definition of covered overhead. What is cover? What does that mean? Cover means that the obligation has to be already in place as of February the 15th. So let's say if it is a new obligation after February the 15th, it is a permissible overhead, but it's not a cover overhead. So you can use the money to pay, but if it is not a cover overhead, you cannot include that in the forgiveness.
Okay, got it. But it's permitted.
But it is permitted. Okay. Now, on the other hand, let's say, let me use a ridiculous example. Okay, you received the money, and now I'm going to use that to go out there and buy a luxury car. Well, obviously, that is not permitted, right? So now what happens? What's the repercussion? What happened is, number one, the PPP loan, as we said earlier, it is a loan, but it is 100% guaranteed by the SBA. If you use the money for functions that are not permitted, that portion is no longer going to be guaranteed by the SBA. Now it becomes your personal loan.
Oh.
And not only that, but now you're subject to penalties. You're maybe subject to that's what they say on paper, although I don't think it is going to happen. Someone can actually throw you in jail because you are basically trying to cheat the government. Okay. And again, I mean, that is what the paper says, but I mean, in reality, I don't think they are going to do it. But it is the severity of the thing. So the whole idea is that, well, make sure. So in addition to interest on a business mortgage, the other thing is rents. So if you are paying rent, and if the rental agreement was already in place as of February the 15th, then it is a covered overhead. Okay. In addition to that, there is utilities. Okay. And so, if the utility hookup was already in place on February the 15th, it is also covered overhead. And that's it. So if you take your money and say, well, I'm going to go buy inventory, I'm going to go buy supplies, they are not covered overhead, and they are not even permissible, to be honest. Okay. Just so that you know. So it is very important to know, number one, spend the money on permissible uses. And number two, if you want to be forgiven, spend the money primarily on payroll and then spend it on covered overhead.
That is a clear cut, because I was even confused on that part. So thank you so much for that clarification. So in essence, if some of the business people have applied for both EIDL and PPP, they can really put a defining line, what kind of funds, which funds they're going to be using for each particular purpose. Say, for example, if you have both EIDL and PPP, like you said, if it's not permissible on the other loan, then use the other loan, for it. Because like you said, the SBA loan essentially is a small business loan to be used for any purpose that you need for your business to thrive, correct? Right. So you didn't need any type of a ledger or any kind of documentation to prove, because there's nothing to forgive. You're going to owe that money whether you like it or not, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Now, so what you just brought up, Janice, I mean, you asked great questions, okay? So what you just brought up is this. Money is money, right? So how do you distinguish? Now, let's say you have a bank account, and the bank account, you already started with some cash, but it's not enough to make payroll and everything. And so now you ask for PPP. So you get the loan and it goes into the same account. And then now, in addition to that, you ask for EIDL, and that goes into the same account. So now all of this money are mixed together. Yeah. Well, how do you know? How do you know what money is being spent on what? How do you prove that? That is a practical question, right? I mean, it is like, I already mixed my coffee together with cream. How do I separate that? You can't. It is already mixed together. So the best practice, not a requirement by the SBA, just so that you know, but best practice is that what we recommend is that you set up a separate bank account. So let's say you receive $135,000 in loan. You transfer the whole $135,000 into the separate account. And then the best scenario is you pay the payroll and everything else directly from that separate account. That is the clearest way. Now, let's say you can't do that. You say, well, wait a minute. I'm using QuickBooks, I'm using ADP, and I already set up the direct deposit and everything. I mean, God, it's going to be a hassle if I got to change all of that. Understand? So therefore, the next best thing, right, is to do this. Still move the money into the separate account. You pay your payroll and everything else out of your regular account. And then you reimburse yourself directly, dollar for dollar, out of the separate account into your general account. And again, that is going to show that, see, I use that money for payroll because that is a reimbursement. That is what we recommend to all of our clients, and that is exactly what they are doing. And so, again, it's not a requirement, but I think it is best practice.
That is actually what's happening on my account, because with on my payroll I have the general ledger, and also the PPP money went to another account, but I changed my payroll to the PPP money, but it didn't happen that way. They were still getting it from my original account, so I would just transfer each time.
Yeah,
So
reimburse. I mean, so exactly to the last dollar. Okay, and let's say the net payroll is let's say $10,256.34. Well, do exactly that and reimburse. So that way there's no question, because the reimbursement is down to the penny, right? And so that would be my recommendation. And by the way, one more thing, especially for you, Dr. Maricel. Now you're a dentist, right?
yes,
So you have employees, and
yes,
the best thing is your major expense is employees. Your major expense, I would imagine, is like rents. Okay, so
yes.
this is what you do. This is what you do. So so what you want to do is, like I said earlier, spend as much as you can. But with employees, are you aware that there is a payroll tax deferral provision? Are you aware of that?
I read of it, but I didn't really understood what it is.
Okay. You're asking the right person. I'm going to tell you what. Okay. What it is this. Normally when you do the 941 form and you have employees, and when you pay them, you withhold FICA, and then you're going to match the FICA, right?
That's
And
right.
so the FICA that you match is called the federal employment tax for the employer, right? So under the CARES Act, it allows you to defer. So in other words, you pay only 50% of the employer payroll tax in 2020, and you pay the other 50% in 2021. Now, here is another change. The old law, the old PPP used to say that if you get forgiveness, then you can no longer defer. But that's old news.
Oh,
Now, if you get forgiveness, you can still defer. Okay? And the idea is, to allow you as an employer to keep the money working for you for a longer period of time. So those are the kind of things I'm sure QuickBooks can help you, because if they can't, you're using the wrong service. But they can help you with that. But just bring it up, because what I found a lot of times, if you don't bring it up, they don't tell you. Although they know how to do it, but you just got to bring it up and remind them, hey, by the way, this is what I want to do, assuming that is what you want to do, and they can help you with it.
thank you for telling me that, because they just taken out a big chunk of money from my account for the payroll taxes. So I get a call.
Yeah, and so what I just told you is 100% accurate. And what I'm afraid, a lot of times when they tell you, when you call them, they're going to say, no, you can't do that. Now, let me tell you a deeper story. So what it used to be, and unfortunately with everything moving so fast, people are not necessarily keeping up, right? So what happened is that under the old law, this is what they used to say. Yes, you can still defer until you get forgiven. So let's say, for example, when you get forgiven, as of that date, when you are notified that you are forgiven, afterward, you can no longer defer. That is what they used to say. Now, automatically deferral. Doesn't matter whether if you're forgiven or not. Just so that you know that it's the latest development, and make sure that they know. And I'm sure they do. But just so that you know what to ask for. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
This is so relevant, and I'm so glad that Doc Maricela Lanin can join us today, because she is a real live person who
I can
is
tell she is alive. She's even smiling.
we all are, and thank God for that, right? That is a blessing for us to be still alive and kicking at this point in time. But it is so important that somebody like Doc Marcel is on the call with us. That way, she knows what it is going through this notion. I did not have employees, so I did not qualify for PPP, but I did have the IDL, and I did not know the difference between the two
Yeah.
until now.
So,
So
so Janice, let me ask you. Now, you don't have to tell me if you don't, okay? But did you ask for PPP? Do you have PPP?
no, I did not. I didn't even apply for it because I did not have any employees. All of my people are on independent contract.
Okay. Well, just so that you know, by the way, so someone like you, okay, because Dr. Maricel, she is a professional corporation. She has employees, so that's pretty straightforward. So let's say someone like you, do you file like a Schedule C at the end of the year?
It is a corporation, so everybody gets a 1099 from the business.
Okay. Do you pay yourself?
I will now.
Okay.
Remember, we spoke about that, and I used myself as the example at that time, saying that I tried to, but there was a point in time in our business that I could not afford to pay myself because I was dedicating 100% of that in for the business and going back to the business, and going forward in technology, and acquiring any type of equipments and materials that we need to get the business going. It applies to most of us. We're just starting the business, and in my end, I wanted to put it back. And so when we were talking about it in the last episode, that was a lesson for me, because I did not pay myself. And you said, Janice, you have to pay yourself, because times like this, then I say, I wish I would have, because I thought that I was saving myself time, money, and aggravation by doing what I was doing before. But now I realize how important it is, because it's almost like a business owner like myself is not looking out for myself.
Well, and not only that, but you know what? I mean, even during normal times, my recommendation is you're going to pay yourself, especially you're a corporation, because if you get audited by the IRS, and I can almost guarantee, if you don't pay yourself, the IRS is going to, and assuming the company you have profits, okay? If you are profitable but you don't pay yourself, the IRS is going to figure out, well, how much do you take home? And they are going to compute what the payroll tax withholding should have been. And now you owe payroll tax, you owe penalty, you owe interest. I mean, honestly, Janice, a lot of people, and I have seen it in real life, a lot of people, they really, really get into a financial bind because of payroll tax. And you never want to put yourself in that position. So my advice to you is to really do it the way it is supposed to be done. And there are plenty of legal ways to plan to save money that you don't need to take any shortcuts, so to speak, because there are a lot of legitimate ways to do it, and then you can sleep better at night. So that's recommended.
That has been the greatest lesson that this pandemic has taught a lot of us. Most specifically myself, because if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have stopped and thought about my business model and change it for the better. And then the fact that yes, I have had my 20 plus years of working as a wage earner when I was working as a nurse, and I don't worry about Medicare and all that kind of stuff. But then I should be also talking about what my retirement would be at the end of the line. And then this for a fact, because this is what you do all day long. And so it has been an eye opener for me. And a lot of it is because of the what coronavirus had brought to us. And some of us was gonna have to say it's a learning experience, but then coming from here moving forward, we have to fix what needs to be fixed. And with the government's help, with the SBA loan, the PPP and EIDL, why not, right? Let's start from, let's have a clean slate, do it right from now on moving forward, and make a good learning experience, and it will definitely make all of our business owners a more savvy and a more prepared business owners for something like this, because we'll never know what's going to happen next. What disaster we'll be facing next, right? And when it happens again, are we prepared? It's just
You
like
know,
an earthquake.
and you are 100% right. I mean, this is the proper forum to do this. You are the Filipino, what is it, the Chamber of Commerce. So, people look to your organization, your constituents. They look to your organization for proper advice, right? And so, I mean, I would imagine a lot of your constituents, maybe they are immigrants in the United States. So, hey, we got to do it right. And if we know how to do it right, I think it is our responsibility to show them the right way. And, but anyway, I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but that's kind of the way I feel. And I want to just let you know, anytime you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, I mean, please, feel free to give me a call. And I'm just right up here. We are neighbors, right? I mean, I'm Northern California, you're Southern California, and we can definitely help each other out. Okay.
Well, we now established the fact that you are a very good resource, and the way you teach us and the way you share experience and knowledge is something in bits and pieces that we all can understand. So we want to just let you know that even after the COVID-19 and all of this is over, even if you're right there in South in the Bay Area, we would still continue to keep doing this in the service of our members who are looking into advice and proper guidance on how to do business properly. Because it does, we don't limit this conversations that we're having just because we have this is the only forum that we can. In fact, we can even have, if it's already open for people to come together in mixers and workshops, we will have people come in, and you could still be on a big screen wherein you can interact with us, because again, this has been a really 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 important informational a platform between you and the business owners. Right now we only have Dr. Maricel here. At some point I can find a lot more business owners who had their PPP, because after this, you know what, we're gonna have more questions after this. Said, we're still learning, we're still trying to figure things out. 2 to 3 weeks down the line, couple of months down the line, there's going to be new changes. We're going to have you back up again, say that, Mr. Lau, what now, what changes now, what changed, right? So every time there's something like that there's a need, we would like to ask you to be okay with having to come back again and again to teach us and share to us these important things that business owners should know, especially small business owners. We are the ones that are really hit because we don't have enough money, to keep going without somebody's help. So it's very important to have good resources, and we have you now. We have a great business attorney that we now have under our wings that could teach us, and so I think little by little, it's also helping our chamber grow. So that we can be a really great resource for them. And in fact, and I would like to take this opportunity. Very noisy. This is the third broadcast together, and you have given us so much value. So we want to really thank you for that. And again, we can still hopefully get you on offline if there are more questions from our viewers, because some of us won't be watching, are not watching right now because the 122nd Philippine Independence Day celebration today. So there
is that right? Wow! Congratulations.
Yes. So if this was not a shelter-in-place restricted situation, we would be in celebration, right? We would be out there celebrating. And so right now, a lot of Philippine organizations are also Zooming. There's Zoom calls. So on this time, on this timeline. So there's a lot of people who regret that they couldn't watch us live, but they will definitely watch us after when they have the moment to watch this broadcast. So
this is being recorded.
This is being record it, and you will be getting a copy to share, just like we did the first few times that we did it.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that now you are so comfortable, and now you're very good with all this, so we didn't have any problems with audio or visuals, and and even the
Yeah.
the streaming was also very botchy last time, so now it's perfect. We also were learning how to do this, so now we can kind of got the grasp of it. Kat here is our, she handles all this now, and so she got it. So I think now is a good cue for Kat. You wanna please play our PSA on our sponsor, Mr. Lau. Please watch this.
Okay, I will.
Clean Power Alliance is a locally operated electricity provider serving residents and businesses, offering clean, renewable energy at competitive rates. CPA purchases clean power and delivers it to Southern California Edison, where you have the ability to choose between different energy rates. SCE still provides your energy, sends your bill, and any questions or concerns still go through SCE. Initially, your city decides which power option you get, but you can now select which system is best for you and your family. Lean Power provides 36% renewable energy content at the lowest possible cost. Clean Power provides 50% renewable energy content, and 100% Green Power provides 100% renewable energy content. For more information, you can head to cleanpoweralliance.org.
Very nice.
Yes,
Very
thank you
nice.
for that. And that is a Clean Power Alliance. They are the FACCSLAA's partner and
Right.
sponsor. And what you just told us earlier also brought my attention, or our treasurer's responsibility, because when we start getting grants, I told her, or we agreed as a board, that we are going to keep these funds separate, so that we're not going to have difficulty in trying to do bookkeeping.
Right.
Because, where the funds coming from, and to who, to where, and then by the time we do our reporting, we won't have any issues trying to to retrieve all of that
Right.
information. Because again, it's a learning experience for us. But for any fund, any loan, any grant, anything that comes through to the business or organizations, that was a really great idea to keep those separate, those accounts separate, so that even if you get audited, well, hey, this is coming from this account, and that's coming from the account, and it keeps everybody sane, essentially.
Right. Right.
That's right.
Very
Right.
well said. Very well said.
And I just want to say hello to the viewers that are on with us right now. Ellen Samson, who is a recipient of both EIDL and PPP, she says that these programs are the lifesavers for her business. And so I don't think she is alone in that predicament. A lot of us would have been under the water, or possibly already dead, business-wise.
Right.
If there was no help from the SBA with the PPP and EIDL, to help the community thrive, the business community thrive. So again, even if through these times, if we get good guidance from people like you, it would be just fine. We will come out, as winners, and we will come out more educated. And we would like to thank you for that. Kat, would you please also share with us what we have in store for our members?
Okay, we are actually Max Partners, in cooperation with Filipino American Chamber of Commerce, South Bay, Los Angeles. We have Philippine Independence Day Foundation, in support, together with the support of Consul General Aurelio Angelito Cruz and the Philippine Consul General. We're putting together an event that's going to be on Saturday, June 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. called Kasalahan. And it will be hosted by John Lau and feature multi-awarded artist Geneva Cruz. It will be free live stream on YouTube and on Facebook. Again, that's Saturday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We have a flyer that I'm going to try and bring up with more information. And do you see it? No.
No, we don't see it.
That's coming right up. Hold on. In the meantime, we also have a couple of events. It's another one coming up on Monday, June 15th, right, Janice?
Yes, yes. Go ahead and show them the flyer. So this is in cooperation with NAAC, and we're presenting this to small businesses for small business solutions of after COVID-19. This is a webinar. This is a web shop. This is very interactive. The space is limited for only 30 participants. So please register early. We will be posting it, or it's already been posted on our website, FACCSLAA, as well as our Facebook timeline of the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles area. This Monday already. So the seats are filling up. Please go ahead and register. 4 p.m. And this we will be playing also just like this one, live stream from our timelines, but you will not be able to be interactive. So if you want to be really truly involved in it, so please go ahead and register. We will post the link. It will be on Monday on 4 p.m. Pacific time. This is one of the first workshops, and there's also another one. If you can show that, there it goes. This is a second one. This is business marketing solutions, and this is also built for the small business owners with a small business assistance workshop, and it's going to help us to address the safety concerns, state guidelines, how to reposition the businesses through operations and use of employees, and making decisions to benefit your business as well as your customers. So this is truly something, again, as we all strive to give you information and give you all of the tools that you need to thrive in the more challenging business community. This is something that's for you. This is not you don't have to pay for this. This is free for all of those who are interested. Again, registration is required for those who wants to be involved and be interactive with the workshop. So we will be again posting this through all of our timelines. If you wish, you can also message us so that we can send you all the information prior to the workshop. This one is Thursday 15th, 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific. Is 1 hour. There's two parts to all of these workshops. We cannot get all the information to you just in 1 hour. So we broke it up to two. So again, it is imperative that you register so you can get the full benefit of the workshop. This was prepared to you by NAAC in cooperation with the Philippine American FACCSLAA, Chamber of Commerce of South Los Angeles area. It's always a tongue twister for me. One of these days I'm going to get it right the first time. But again, everybody's invited to join. So those are the few things that we have in store for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a pleasure giving you this broadcast from the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of South Bay, from John Lau, CPA from the LFS Finance out there in up north in the Bay Area. But he's been so kind enough to share with us important information in regards to the PPP and a little bit about EIDL. If you have any questions, feel free to chat with us. If you have any topics that we would like for us to share with you, or maybe get some information to benefit you, we are more than happy to entertain those. So comments, suggestions, and any other questions that you may have, please go on to our website or our timelines in the Facebook, FACCSLAA, or Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of South Los Angeles area. We're also in LinkedIn. We're also in Twitter. And we are also in, what's the other one?
Instagram.
Instagram. Thank you.
I'll have the flyer up.
Our VP Fred is always on top of that. And congratulations to Fred. Thank you for being there for us and representing the Filipino community in the city of Carson's flag raising ceremony this morning at 8 o'clock. We did a flag raising for our flag of the Philippines, as well as honoring Jose P. Rizal. It's going to be his birthday next week. He is our Philippine national hero. So again, happy Independence Day to all the
Yes.
out there. And for those who are watching in the Philippines, thank you so much. And please continue to watch our broadcast. This is a loving effort from your dearest board of directors of the chamber to still continue to give you important, valuable, and useful information. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. It's an hour and 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Lau.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have
Doug,
a good weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
on this
Good
broadcast.
Thank
And
you.
stay
Bye.
safe. And you guys have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.